It is Thursday, August 29th, 2024. This is another edition of Football Today. Bobby Skinner, Justin Penik, Chris Rose, producer Mikey along for the ride as well. Penik, we get to do something fun that you guys do on Talking Giants. So why don't you take it from here, man?
Oh, we do. Are we going to make Mikey put in Steve from Blue's Clues?
Nope,
Bobby?
that's only that's a Talking Giants entity.
Mail time. We're going to start off with the first question.
Well, maybe there's is there any other show that has kids show that has mail involved in it?
I don't know.
It's been a long time since I've watched those. Although I do remember.
Doesn't part of the interruption just go mail time and that's it?
Yeah, but they've kind of cornered the market on that in 25 years.
Yeah,
I think they're good.
I think they've established themselves a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. This is the first ever Talking Giants mailbag. I actually sung the Blues Clues song, and then realized I just put it in post editing afterwards.
I could always run and find my mail carrier today and have them video something. I'm sure that's not a federal offense.
That'd be great. Job. Oh yeah, but we asked about the Twitter world, and we asked the YouTube people to help us put together a mailbag, and that's what we are doing today. We're answering the questions that all of you want answered. And the first question is coming from Chris at ClangBeIn33. What the hell happened with the Ernest Jones trade? Biggest piece of news that we've had since the last time we all chatted.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, Rose, if you're able to figure anything out, because he's 24 years old. He's a good linebacker, right? He's one of the best pass rushing linebackers, a good run defender, man coverage. The Rams, who are trying to win a Super Bowl, why would they trade this player for a 6th and 5th round pick swap?
Okay, so I did do a little digging. You start with this. Jones is heading into the last year of his rookie deal.
Right.
So it's either keep him and let him walk for a compensatory pick, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There is the old let's extend him, which with off-ball linebackers, unless you're elite. I mean, heck, Patrick Queen changed teams, right? And he's been decent. A lot of teams aren't doing that these days. And then they feel like a couple of guys have outperformed him. Particularly Omar Spates. And now, once again, this is what I got from somebody in the Rams organization. So I'll read you the text, actually, without naming who it is. Okay? Good dude, solid leader, could still play, but Omar Spates was clearly the better player. They are taking a risk. So there you go. I mean, that's it doesn't surprise me. Now, the only thing is that they didn't want to pay him, so they wanted to get something.
If the Rams, in their cap situation, they don't feel the need to pay Ernest Jones, I'm fine with that, right? But to trade him for it, like when the thought of Ernest Jones being traded is that's you don't really love doing that for a team that's going for it this year, but you'd rather be early than late. But to do it for a 5th and a 6th round pick swap, and hey, maybe Omar Spates is great, but we haven't seen him in a regular season game, and he's an undrafted free agent. We're not talking like some guy they invested a 2nd round pick in. He's an undrafted free agent. And the guy next to him in Christian Roseboom isn't very good. Like, that's where I'm left puzzled, because I would rather keep him and let him walk and use him and get his service for this year than have a 5th and a 6th round pick swap. That's just that's basically nothing as far as compensation. Like guys like Boogie Basham get traded for that.
But the compensation has nothing to do with the Rams. The only alternative would have been hanging on to him.
They can't let him play out the year. You're trying to win.
That's fine.
They're trying to win games, right?
Yeah, and especially because this is a defense that, like, Ernest Jones is a name. This defense doesn't have names.
They're very young,
and it just lost. A Hall of Fame player, one of the best defensive players of all time. And that's why, you kind of looked at Ernest Jones as a stabilizing force. And now, like Bobby said, okay, you believe in Omar Spates. He's an undrafted.
They're going to have 4 rookies starting for them.
That's
on one side of the ball.
And a lot of second-year players that are kind of a little bit unproven without Aaron Donald, too.
Can I change my Rams over the Lions pick from Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, you
Can we
can.
go
Like
back now?
this does change the way I feel like a little bit about the Rams, right? I don't think it makes them go from a playoff team to not, but like, and it doesn't make sense to do it for that. If they trade him for like I was talking with the Titans guy, and when this happened because the compensation didn't come out, and he was like, I like Ernest Jones, but it seems like we're just trading for every single guy that our GM likes. And then he's like, oh, and then he saw the compensation. He's like, never mind. Like, we just basically got him for free. We're like the Titans aren't even, we'll talk about it from the Titans point of view too. The Titans, with that compensation, you're not obligated to pay him to make this trade work. You can use him as a 1-year rental, and no one's sweating at that compensate. No Titans fan is like, oh, why would we do that type of trade? It's just, we're not talking about a player who's like declining. He's 24 years old. Did he come into camp out of shape? In a contract year like that?
I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, that seems unlikely to me.
Last point here, Bobby, before we move on. The compensation, just to give people kind of a ballpark. The Cleveland Browns, they suffered an injury to their backup center, okay, a guy named Luke Whippler. So they needed another center. So they went and got a guy, Nick Harris, who had been with them 4 years, but had signed as a free agent with the Seattle Seahawks. He was going to be either a cut or a backup guy up there once they signed Connor Williams. My point is, the Browns ended up trading for Nick Harris. They got a 7th, and they gave up a 6th.
Right.
So you're talking, that's for a backup center. This is what the Titans got for a starting good off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, those are the trades we see every year. The Giants just did it with the Cowboys for Jordan Phillips. Obviously a 7th and a 6th is different than a 6th and 5th, but it's only by one level. And that was for a guy. The Giants' defensive tackle room sucks outside of Dexter Lawrence, and they were able to trade a guy for that, right? The Giants did it last year for Boogie Basham, guys that are getting cut. This is usually the type of trade you see.
Right.
It just, you don't. Again, like that's where I'm like, that's why I asked you to like see if you could find something, because it doesn't make sense from the Rams' point of view, right? The Rams have a pretty good track record. Like it's like if you asked any Rams fan or any person that covers the Rams, you say, all right, what would you rather do? Play out this year, let Ernest Jones walk, or trade him for a 5th and or 6th round pick swap? Everyone's saying to let him walk. And I do want to hit this from the Titans' point of view as well too, but the Rams are the team that traded him. The Rams are the team that's looking to compete this year. It just doesn't make sense for a guy who was 7th in run stop rate. He's strong. He doesn't miss tackles. He had the most sacks, hits, and pressures in the NFL last year for linebackers. Was 2nd in win rate. Like the only two like pass rushing linebackers that I can say like that I would rather have in just that area are Frankie Louvu and Ivan Pace. But I'd rather have Ernest Jones in the other areas that those guys struggle. So, and it just. It'd be one thing if they had it's awesome that this Omar Spates guy is a UDFA they like. I'm rooting for him, but they also have Christian Roseboom next to him. Are they confident in Christian Roseboom, who really struggled for them last year? I don't understand this.
Rose, did you hear McVay's exchange?
That's the other thing. McVay lost it on the reporter, right? He's got very defensive. He's like, it's like you said, this is better for the, Oh,
it was a fair question.
It was the most fair question of all time. And he got overly defensive because he knew, he was trying to stop the questions about, because there's really no smart answer for it. It's like short and long term. You guys are crazy. Lost his mind on this, not small market, but small fan base, media center, and lost his mind. So got really defensive about it. There seems something's up here.
Well, we'll see how it ends up playing out. If we want to give a minute to the Titans side of this, I would say that they've obviously done some nice things. The trade for L'Jarius Sneed and then the extension obviously was the biggest move that they've made defensively this year. This is going to help them. They need Harold Landry to kind of return to form and stay healthy there. Jeffrey Simmons, we know what a beast he is. I think the most interesting guy that they have picked up this offseason is the drafting of Tavondre Sweat. Now, that kid had all sorts of issues at Texas, had another one right before the draft, still got taken in the 2nd round. Uber talented, if he is around good veterans and can stay in the right lane, wink, wink, then we'll see where he ends up, going talent-wise, because he is a beast. But I don't know. I mean, that's a coin flip at best for that franchise.
Right.
At best.
But you go through this defensive lineup and you're like, all right, this is a defense that can be solid. And you think about how much we like Denard Wilson as a defensive coordinator. Like he's kind of built this in his image pretty quickly. I mean, like you have Jeff Simmons and L'Jarius Sneed, who are your two premier players. You got a nice little safety trio of, Quandre Diggs and Amani Hooker as your starters and Jamal Adams coming in as a box safety, right? Like that's a good fit for what Wilson likes to do. Kenneth Murray, me and Justin aren't the biggest fans of him, but he can play Mike linebacker. And then Ernest Jones could kind of fill in that Patrick Queen role a little bit where you are, blitzing more often. And then you have like solid players. Like I love Roger McCreary in the nickel. I think he's going to be, make more. If the Titans get better, he'll be a name that people start to recognize a little more. And then, like you mentioned, the other three guys on that front outside of Jeff Simmons, I think, are the decider of the ceiling and floor of this defense. You need Harold Landry to return to form. Arden Key's a solid player. And then Tavondre Sweat. What are you getting out of him? Because like you said, he is a beast. But is he a beast who isn't putting the work in and it's hard to put on the field because he's out of like there's obviously a lot of red flags around him.
Yeah. Penik, we got another question?
Oh, yeah, we got a bunch of them. JG2 at JG the sequel asks, where is Jameis going? And I kind of want to even expand it out to maybe even just the Browns' backup quarterback situation in general.
Mm-hmm.
That's the topic here.
That's the interesting one.
So they kept, for people that don't know, on their initial 53-man, they kept 4 quarterbacks, and they only have 2 running backs and 2 tight ends. They cut D'Onta Foreman.
Surprising.
Now, here's what I think, and I did not talk to any decision makers in the Browns organization. I think they're still trying to trade one of those guys. I think they're trying to actually trade Tyler Huntley. More news has gotten out there about Jameis, but I don't think that that's accurate.
So, let me ask you this: are they trying to trade both of them, or like they're just trying to trade one?
No, I think they're just trying to trade one and keep 3. I think they're scarred from what happened last year. Remember, they started 5 quarterbacks.
Okay, so
last season
that was going to be my question because I was like, have the Browns seriously not fucking learned their lesson from last year?
Well, they have. I think
because it was reported that they were trying to trade both from Mary Kay Abbott, who's like, whenever I see Browns news, it's usually from
Cabot.
here.
Mary Kay Cabot. No, I don't think that they're trying to trade. I think they're trying to trade one, and I think that they would love to trade Tyler Huntley and get something. I mean,
okay, that makes this a little less juicy because I was under the impression from the report that they were trying to trade them both because I was going to be like, are the Browns are you for real right now, Cleveland? Because like, are you being and the part of the report was like, they're going to roll with DTR. They like DTR. I was like, we did the exact same thing last year, and he was 47th out of 49 QBs in EPA per play. Like Joe Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year because of how bad you were. He was the only QB to not have a winning record for the Browns. Lowest, 4 interceptions, lowest average. Like he was just essentially the worst quarterback in the NFL last year when he's played, and I was shocked to see that.
Well, that part's not accurate. I saw PJ Walker play too.
Sure. Okay. They were both 2 peas in a pod there. But
yeah, listen, here's the thing. And my guess is they have a wink deal with D'Onta Foreman to come back. You can do that with vested veterans. They don't have to be they don't have to be exposed to waivers. And so that's my guess what's coming back. Even if you listen to Stefanski's press conference, and they asked him about D'Onta Foreman, he goes, well, you can't keep everybody, but as we always tell you, this is the first 53, not the last 53. So to me, that means that D'Onta Foreman's coming back, and they're just trying to buy themselves more time for a team, right? Like Malik Willis got traded for a 7th rounder, and he's just in his 3rd year in the league now. So I don't know. That's the way it is. I don't think I'd read too much more into it.
I'm even more shocked that they only have 2 tight ends on the roster right now, and I don't think David Njoku's a great blocker. I don't think he's a negative.
Yeah, no, he is a good blocker.
Okay. Then Jordan Akins, but is a bad blocker. I know that for a fact. Bad blocker. And I find it very hard to believe that Kevin Stefanski
Well, remember, they're changing their offense. So
I know, which is why it's so crazy that Deshaun Watson's actually had more success with more tight ends on the field in Cleveland than with less tight ends. But even though 11 personnel and more wide receivers is the stuff that he preferred back in Houston, it's just all ass backwards. So I hope that Cleveland adds another blocking tight end before the season comes by.
Listen, people freak out about the initial 53 because they think that they're playing a game on Wednesday. They're not.
No.
They are and a lot of shit is going to go down even by the time this mailbag is released. So you just have to kind of take a deep breath. Your roster is going to change. It could change by as many as 4 or 5 players, and that's just the way it goes. So I do expect the Browns to add a running back, subtract a quarterback, maybe add a third tight end. We'll see. That's the way.
Just as long as the Browns don't get rid of both Jameis and Huntley, that would have been shocking to me.
Now, if so, then we'll have something else to discuss because that would be mind-numbing.
Yeah, because I mean, not only do they have a guy like coming off of injury and Watson, but like a guy who was like one of the worst starters in the NFL. Like you need that insurance with that team right now. When you have that defense, when you have Amari Cooper and Judy and those guys. The other thing I want to ask you about the Cleveland Browns, a couple things. Nick Chubb was put on PUP. When is the expectation for him to be back? I'm asking for my fantasy football draft.
Right. Well, this is a good question for people. So he was seen about 3 weeks ago doing sprints and cuts after practice. That was actually the media that was there and saw it for the first time since his surgery. It's been very much behind closed doors. I have heard that he is doing exceptionally well. That if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's between weeks 5 and their bye week, which comes in week 10. So it's possible they could get him back for their first divisional game, which is week 7 against Cincinnati. But then again, it wouldn't surprise me if after the bye, that's when you see him. So to me, it's probably at best a 10-game season for him, and hopefully at worst an 8-game season, something like that. So, but they've been very quiet, and they need to be. It wasn't one surgery; it was 2 surgeries, several weeks apart, and obviously major stuff that went on here. But when you're talking, Nick Chubb came back and said, I'm squatting the same amount. I'm really cutting well. I'm feeling confident on the knee. So that's all good.
Stop squatting. I hate when running backs squat. It makes me so mad.
Dude, that's his thing, though.
I know it. It's all their thing, and I hate it. I have another question about the Browns. Justin, who won the Maurice Bassett Award winner for the most outstanding rookie in camp?
Mm-hmm.
Jamari Thrash.
Yes.
He led them in receiving.
Yes, he did.
He was 6th most in preseason receiving yards.
Made the team.
I'm going to turn this into another question. He played mostly slot in the preseason. I like Thrash. Any chance he challenges Elijah Moore at some point this season?
Mm-hmm.
He could. Elijah Moore, believe it or not, had career highs in catches and I believe yards last year for him. But still,
that's
felt like I can't remember one play he made.
They force-fed him. They treated him like he was Percy Harvin.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson liked to target him, but the average of the target was very low.
Yeah, well, so we'll see. But I was thinking about you when Jamari Thrash caught like a 45-yard touchdown in Seattle the other day. I almost said that it's for Justin Penik, but then everybody in Cleveland would have been like,
Justin, who had the now? So Jamari Thrash is going to be like a who liked him more guy for me and Justin. What was your draft grade on him, Justin?
I don't.
What round would you be like? That's what round he belongs.
Didn't you say third?
I said third.
Third or fourth?
I had a low third. Justin has a third or fourth. I like him more.
You guys are in the. We could have Steve Smith on this show, and you guys can talk him up. Steve Smith loves Jamari Thrash. He loved his tape so much, he went to his pro day and showed up, and Jamari Thrash turns around. He's like, "What are you doing here?" The kid, like, man, I got
the kids know ball. Wow, Steve Smith loves all the Browns wide receivers with Jerry Jeudy there too. Yeah, I'm a Jamari Thrash guy. I also like Jake Ferguson more than Justin. Next question.
Stop.
What do you got there, Penik?
We're gonna do 2 together. Andrew Spagnuolo, no relation to Steve, at Andrew Spagnuolo 5. Outside of the Chiefs and Niners, who would y'all say are your next 2 most confident division winner picks? And then also we're gonna do the last to first conversation. Matt Roberts at MattRob8712. What last place team from last year are you most confident in to win their division next year?
That one's an easy.
It's so
one, right?
easy. It's the Bengals, right?
Yeah,
But I mean,
that's it.
okay, but outside the Bengals, let's say outside the
Okay,
Bengals.
outside the Bengals. I got to bring up last year's standing.
Which it gets harder.
Rose,
from there.
based on
But
your record prediction thing, I feel like yours would probably have to be Chicago, right?
Well, not winning the division.
I know, but
did not have-
likely if someone had to.
Yeah. Oh, that's not going to help.
Rose, you had all of Detroit leaving comments unless
I'm afraid to go. I'm afraid to get in the pool.
Oh,
I got to be honest.
Of course they did. And I'm sure they left comments about my Chargers, and they didn't say anything about Justin with his, chalk takes.
Well, Bobby, for you, that's an easy one too.
Yeah, the thing is I actually have the Chiefs
first.
winning the division, but I guess the second would be the Chargers if they split. If there's one game off in my variance.
Yeah, listen, there's only 3 teams you could pick from this and not be deemed insane, right? It's the Bengals, it's the Chargers, which just with the Chiefs in that division feels extremely unlikely, and the Bears, because even though they were a last place team, they're really rocking and rolling right now. So if we can amend the question to from last place to playoff team, then I'm going Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
that's how I would do it. But I don't have them winning the NFC North.
Yeah, the Bengals are the easy one. But with the Chargers, the Chiefs. We forget the conversations about the Chiefs in the regular season because they ended up winning the Super Bowl. And that was again was there a worse second to fourth in a division last year? With the quarterbacks that they had to face last year in that division outside of Justin Herbert, and we saw the Chargers collapse. It'd be interesting to see if the Chargers can actually compete in that. But yeah, really the only answer that I can say it and not feel like it's a crazy hot take would be Cincinnati.
Let me throw this at you real quick. Is that you mentioned the quarterback situation in the AFC West outside of Herbert and Mahomes. Is the quarterback situation in Denver and Vegas better or worse than it was at this time a year ago?
Better. Both better. Now, in Las Vegas, it's not much better, but it is better. And Denver, we'll see, right? We'll see how Bo Nix, hangs in the regular season. I don't think it's this big high ceiling, but I do think it's better for Sean Payton.
But it's pretty close. I mean, we can all take a dump on Jimmy Garoppolo right now, but at least he had been to playoffs and stuff like that.
I hate Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay, it's easy now,
I think the Raiders offense, all right, I'm going to get analytical here. EPA per play and efficiency wise, even though it felt bad, I think it felt bad there last year because they had expectations. They also were bad too, but I do think efficiency wise they're going to be worse, and I think Minshew's worse than Garoppolo when you look at efficiency stuff.
All right, so the other
Garoppolo
one
played in San Fran. He was the number 1 efficiency guy in the NFL.
No, even McDaniels, they had some weeks where they were high EPA, but it never leads to anything good.
We do need to answer the other part of the question, which was
most confident division winner pick.
Okay. We can just each give one, I suppose.
Yeah.
Wait, Penik, you want to go first? You haven't been answering a ton of these.
Falcons.
Yeah.
I am most confident that the Falcons can take care of the NFC South.
Yeah. Next for me, I suppose, because I would agree with you.
The Texans?
Even though I kind of like that division,
next.
that division's frisky. The Texans are the team that's clearly better than everyone else.
What about Philadelphia?
I thought about that. The thing is you do have worries about Philly and them not fixing some of their issues, and then Dallas is gonna win games.
Well, the nice thing is in that division, you can knock out 2 of the teams, right? In the AFC South, I know you guys are big believers in the Colts, so you would figure there's.
No, he's not.
You're gonna hear an answer
Justin.
later.
Okay. What do we got next? I love these mailbags. We get to answer questions from people. We don't have to think of these are great.
I put together. I got notes on notes, my friend.
Bobby takes the most notes for these mailbags more than anything. Tim at NYG Tim, not to be confused with Tim in Florida. Who are some head coaches you believe are on the hot seat this year? And you want to know what's really unique about this year? It's not just head coaches that have the potential to have bad records. Because a lot of the teams that I think that could have bad records this year, they're kind of new head coaches. And are you really going to be one and done? A lot of the head coaches that I think are on the hot seat this year are big time coaches that even if their teams have winning seasons, they still could be out, which is crazy.
Okay.
I think
why don't we all go
never
one?
Had a losing season. with their teams they're on right now.
Oh.
I think Mike McCarthy is number
McCarthy
one,
and Sirianni.
No. I think Robert Saleh is number one.
That's also fair.
Yeah. I think Saleh's one and McCarthy's two. But I think there's a couple other ones out there. Bobby, do you have one?
Eberflus is an underrated one because it is year 3 with them with 2 losing seasons. They're not the most stable organization in the world. And there are, even if they don't want to say it, there are huge expectations for that team from their fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And that Chicago fan base, I think, is the second most rabid in the world, maybe even the most. And they're going to want somebody if it's not there. And even if the defense is great, right? And they win, they go 7-10. They're going to be like, we need an offensive coach. They're going like, we need an offensive coach for Caleb Williams, and Sirianni or not Eberflus will be that. But I think we covered the big 3, which would be Saleh, McCarthy, and Sirianni.
Okay, I've got 2 other names for you. John McDermott, even though he received his extension, right? At some point, you've got to take that next step. He's been to 1 AFC title game, and other than that, it feels like they're reverting a little bit, right?
The thing is, Bean loves him so much.
I know.
I feel like they're close.
We even asked Field Yates about that, I think, and it's just like, yeah, he's Bean's guy.
Okay, the other one, do you think that Mike McDaniel comes under any sort of heat if this team goes 9-8 again, maybe crawls into the playoffs? Not again. Sorry, I shouldn't say 9-8 again. They won more than 9 games. But even 10-7 is a 6 or 7 seed, gets blown out in the cold. Not lose your job feeling the heat, but people are like, okay, smart guy. Like, okay, what are we doing? We haven't won anything down here.
Sure, there'll be some heat, but he won't be in jeopardy of losing his job.
Right.
That
no,
front
I don't
office
think so
trusts
either.
him. If anybody, it'd probably be Tua that gets the most heat if that happens, and maybe the Miami fans start to turn on him or somebody.
Rightfully so.
But they just did sign him to a contract. But the expectations are bigger when you sign that contract. But again, it's like McDermott. I agree with McDermott. You would think he's more on the hot seat for a coach that's been winning, but Buffalo's not letting him go. It'd have to be they'd have to miss the playoffs for him to not make it.
Okay, so this year there were 8 coaching changes. So 1/4 of the league has guys different at the helm than last year, with the exception, obviously, of Antonio Pierce, who kept his job. So can you find 8 teams that you think will change their coach?
So, it's not always 8. So, let me just go through it right now. Gerard Mayo, I don't think he will. I think Kraft won't give him just 1 year, but I think there's a chance he deserves to be. I'm not the biggest Gerard Mayo fan in the world. McCarthy, I think Sirianni survives at the end of the day. What if I won't put you on what happens if Cleveland goes away. Eberflus we talked about. Raheem Morris, maybe he could end up being a one and done guy. Canales, that owner, you can't rule anything past David Tepper. They fired Frank Reich.
I'll give you one.
Huh?
I'll give you one. Doug
I'm
Peterson.
disappointed you haven't said this guy, Chris. I know who you're going to say.
I said Doug Peterson.
Oh.
Yeah, Doug Peterson.
I thought you were going to go with.
Let's see. Who are the other teams? Dennis
Who'd
Allen,
you have,
even though
Dennis Allen. Well, I think the Saints are. I think the Saints are going to.
They're too patient.
I think so too.
A team that keeps pushing the cap down the road every single year.
That's the issue.
Huh?
They have been patient. They've been very patient.
Yeah, and they've been 9-8 with a bad offensive roster.
I think it's going to be bad. I think it could be bad this year. I know you're the defense, but that's how bad I think the offense could be.
Yeah, there's not that many teams. Like the Commanders aren't changing anything. Philly is the one team in that division because you guys think that Daboll sticks around. I don't think anybody
too much loyalty from his GM. If it wasn't such a good marriage with the GM, Daboll would be more on the hot seat.
Right.
Kind of similar with Brandon Beane and McDermott.
I don't think anybody in the NFC North is on the hot seat except for Eberflus. Here's one. Todd Bowles. Yeah, he's a guy that could.
Yeah, but they've made the playoffs 2 years under him. I know 1 year wasn't very good. Arians is still kind of working down there, and that's his guy. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see. What's the next question?
Next question is coming from. Oh, this is also Andrew Spagnuolo. Again, no relation to Steve. I've met Andrew a couple times. We celebrated a great Giants victory against the Tennessee Titans in Nashville, Tennessee. We hugged on the bridge.
That's beautiful.
Dark horse team to have the number 1 pick, not the Pats, Commanders, Panthers, or Broncos.
So I'm glad that they just ruled those 4 out. But I want us to kind of expand from like, okay, well, who's 28th in our power rankings, right? To me, it is the Indianapolis Colts. That's a dark horse number 1 pick.
Ooh.
Think about it. If Anthony Richardson gets injured, now you have Joe Flacco at QB. I know Cleveland loves him. I don't think it was all that good. I think it was a defense that won. They have a bad defense, in my opinion, with a bad defensive coordinator in Gus Bradley. They're a couple injuries away from this just being a bad roster as well. And let's not forget, a year before last year, they finished their season 1-10 and won 4 games that year. That's how they finished. Tell me how different this roster is outside of quarterback, right? If anything, you can argue it's a little worse. They lost Bobby Okereke, Stephon Gilmore, and Yannick Ngakoue, who did have a good year that year. And really, the one place where you could say it's better is Adonai Mitchell and Josh Downs is better than Pearson Campbell.
I think Shane Steichen's too good of a coach. If you view like a guy like we say this with Brian Dable, I think we've said this a couple times with some other teams. Like if you view Shane Steichen as this coach where it's like, all right, even with bad talent, even with the bad situation, which last year was a bad situation for them, and when Anthony Richardson goes down, and then Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco is a downgrade from Gardner Minshew in my opinion. If you view Shane Steichen as a good coach that can keep the ship afloat, I don't think they're going to be bad. They could be bad enough to get a top 10 pick, maybe even a top 6.
The thing is, I just think they're coached so bad on. I think they're coached bad on defensively, and they're not flush with talent either.
I think they can find offensive efficiency though, especially with that offensive line and in the run game. And then you include play action and with the weapons that they have. I think they would be able to stay afloat to find a way to win 5-6.
But here's another issue, and me and Rose went through this.
It's close to the number 1 pick. It's close.
Me and Rose went through this in our rec because I think I had them finishing 8 and 9, I believe. I can't remember off the top of my head. The beginning of their schedule is tough, right? So you have the Texans, the Packers, the Bears, Steelers, Jags, Titans. Like it's not the toughest schedule, but those are formidable teams. The Dolphins, Texans again. Then they play the Lions, the Jets. Like it could, if they don't have a QB, it could be a team that falls apart. So again, this is dark horse. I'm not predicting they're going to have number 1 pick, but I think they are a dark horse for it because they almost did it 2 years ago with a very similar roster.
Okay, I've got one. We're talking about dark. What about the silver and black?
I thought we said couldn't use the Raiders.
We can't use the Raiders? Were they in that group? I thought that.
Justin, read the question again.
Not the Pats, Commanders, Panthers, or Broncos.
Never mind. They're not in it. Okay, go ahead. I don't think
that's who I had. I had them on our prediction show at 5-12. So 5-12 is terrible, and 1 or 2 extra missteps gets you to 3-14, which gets you in the conversation. The problem is the first month they do host the Carolina Panthers, and that could be the game that decides it. So that's my only huge worry because I look at the rest of their schedule, and it ain't fun, right? You've got your 6 divisional games. They also have to travel to Baltimore. They've got Cleveland coming to town. They have to go to the Rams. They have to go to the Bengals. They have to go to the Dolphins, Buccaneers. The Falcons come to town. That's not going to be easy. They have to go to New Orleans. You know that Derek Carr is going to be fired up for that one. And the Jags come to town. So that's, once again, that's your dark horse. That's the way you play it. You say, well, they're going to win a bunch of those games. They could. And then if they don't, all of a sudden, they're sniffing around at that number 1 pick.
The Vikings have a very hard schedule.
I thought about that too. Mm-hmm. But to see what they did last year with the injuries they had at quarterback,
Another coach where you feel like Kevin O'Connell, they're not going to be bad enough to get the number 1 pick. But let's just say that even if the Vikings find themselves in top 5, top 6 territory, if they believe in J.J. McCarthy, which I think that they should.
Well, he hasn't played. Yeah, they can't draft someone that high and then not let him play a single game for you.
The haul that they would get for a top 5 pick would be crazy.
Well, you think.
Crazy.
You think. Last
Not if
year
there's no QBs.
was the perfect. That's the thing. There have to be QBs up there because people do not move up for anything else for the most part.
Teams will get desperate.
Yeah, they always do. But, you know, we need a whole college season to play out so that we can break down to the nth degree every quarterback at the combine, because that's what we do. All right, what's next?
Next question is coming from Doug E. Fresh.
Yeah, Doug E. Fresh.
I call him Doe E. Fresh on Talking Giants. Is Justin Herbert the best QB people rarely talk about? Will he have a Rivers type of career with the stats and accolades, but ultimately be held back because of organizational failures? And Doug asked this on YouTube. Thank you, Doug.
I don't know. I think people know how talented he is. They have come to the point where they're making every excuse for him. And I am curious when this starts becoming an issue with Justin Herbert. I'm not saying that it has been, right? Brandon Staley, for goodness sakes, some of the way he coached that team was borderline moronic. It just was not good. And now the excuse we can use is that he doesn't have any receivers. So we could be 7 or 8 years into Justin Herbert's career, and it will never have been his fault. Never have been his fault. I don't know if that's fair.
He was already getting a good amount of heat for fourth quarter collapses, late game stuff. And
that wasn't on him. They were always saying it was coaching decisions, going for it on fourth down at your own 20. The butcher job that he did in the last game of the regular season a few years ago out in Las Vegas, all that stuff never fell on Justin Herbert.
I actually think last year did him a favor from a PR standpoint, and now that Harbaugh's in, like it did him a favor where he was getting heat, man. Like just as much as the coach deserved the heat and Staley deserved it. He was getting, and also a bad offensive coordinator situation too, and he elevated everybody. He was getting a lot of the heat from the public, at least. And I think last year kind of did him a favor of like, all right, let's take Justin Herbert out of the national spotlight, and maybe he could return back to good graces of people. So, Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. He's really good. We haven't got to see him really in the playoffs besides that one game. I think that's where that's where the real heat and praise comes from, is from playoff performance. And you would assume he's going to be back there soon. Even though he's, again, only had that one game. So, but I do think he gets a little bit of heat, but just, could he be getting more heat on a different team? Sure.
Well, can I tell you
still
why?
Very early into his career too,
Yeah,
he's 5 years in. He's 5 years and a second mega contract into his career.
This is his fifth year, right?
This is his fifth year.
He's 26 years old. He's going to turn 27.
So it was like rookie year was sick. Second year was the year they missed the playoffs on that, Steelers-Raiders game at the end of the year, whatever it was.
Could you imagine if Tua's team had blown a 27-0 lead in the playoffs? What would have happened then? Here's the part of the reason Justin Herbert doesn't get the heat that others do. Because people don't care about the Chargers.
Well, we also watch Tua and then watch Justin Herbert and tell me which one's clearly better.
I get it, but not once does he get. Nobody in this town cares about that. So the heat starts locally. The heat starts. That's where the fire begins, and then it continues to billow and billow and billow. But if you're not getting heat locally, how often do these national shows talk about the Chargers?
Ours a lot, but others I don't know. I don't listen to other national shows. I only listen to Football Today.
Very rarely. Very rarely. That's cute, though. I like that.
Big year. Next question, Steve.
Brody King, 6'4", 6'8", and fellas, if you want to maybe pull up your records, because this is in reference to last episode, your records of what we did last episode. I noticed none of you guys had any 9-8 teams in the playoffs. Looking back at last year, where a bunch of 9-8 teams were in the running for wild card spots on both sides, including the Saints, Do you guys agree with your prediction that 9-8 won't be good enough to make the playoffs this year?
No, but then that's where I said the flaw was in the record predictions, because I'm not going to do a ton of surprises. So it's like the worst teams have probably worse records than they'll have, and the best teams have better records than probably have. But I actually went and looked at it since they changed to the 17-game schedule. You had 5, 9, and 8 teams miss the playoffs last year. The Bucks made it as a division winner, and the Packers made it a wild card. Year before, 3 made it, 2 didn't. The Jags made it as a division winner, and then the Seahawks and Dolphins made it as wild card teams. And then 2021, 5, 9, and 8 teams, and the only team that made it was the Philadelphia Eagles. So the large majority of these 9 and 8 teams don't make the playoffs. I mean, we're batting 6 for 11, 6 for 13, 6 for 17 on making the playoffs. So 33% essentially, 37%.
I think I had the 9 and 8 Dolphins making the playoffs. Let me see what I had the Bears at, because the Dolphins were my 7th seed, and I had them at 9 and 8. With the Bears, I had them at 10 and 7. So I had one 9 and 8 team making it. But yeah, once again, we did tell you that on that it was tough to go through and then figure out where you were until the end of the road. I was like, what? I had them going 10 and 7 and not 8 and 9.
Yeah, and I'm not in the business of like, oh, you're surprised, and going through all that. So I had the Saints and Bears missing it at 9 and 8, and I actually had the 10 and 7 Browns missing it in the AFC. So, yeah, so there will be one. It's just I'm not going and doing a bunch of surprise losses in my. I'm looking more at the standings and let alone just like the raw record when I look at that, when I do the record predictions.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next we have 2 questions left. Want to move on?
Do it.
Move on, Johnny.
All right, next question is coming from Patrick Class 3902, and this is also a YouTube vehicle. Love the content, fellas. Does the Ceedee Lamb contract extension make it more or less or just as likely that the Cowboys re-sign Dak Prescott?
Why would it change anything? That's my question for you guys.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think Dak gets done before week 1.
Are they even negotiating?
Yep. Yeah, they are.
How are we supposed to? We don't know anything. We don't know if they are or aren't.
Yeah, it's just that we always knew Ceedee Lamb was going to get signed. I think it was like, why didn't you should have done this last year, and it would have been like that's actually a good thing to look at with the Ceedee Lamb contract. Like, what wide receivers signed last year, and how much money could they have signed him for less? I'm going to look at that right now. So what big wide receivers were paid last offseason?
Amon-Ra St. Brown was paid this offseason. Justin Jefferson was paid this past offseason. This is what we talked about on their TPP. Chris, and I'm sure you may have missed it. The Cowboys cry wolf all the time, man. They cry wolf all the time. Well, we don't have money. We can't do this. We can't do that. We're strict by the salary cap, and they wait. They wait on everything. And they have great football players. I guess you can wait on Dak because of the playoff thing. But why? Micah Parsons should be a contract that you're talking about right now.
Parsons should be done right now. It should have been done like beginning of the offseason.
Ceedee Lamb should have been done after he has that big year. And guess what? Use your brain, Dallas Cowboys. You know that Justin Jefferson wants a new contract. You know that Jamar Chase wants a new contract. You know that all these wide receiver contracts are going to get done. And the longer that you wait, the longer you're going to have to pay. And they sit and they cry wolf that they don't have any money. And it's their fault because they're not smart with their moves. It's annoying.
Well, I don't think it has any, getting back to the original question, I don't think that it has any bearing whatsoever on Dak Prescott. If the Cowboys really want Dak Prescott, he'll be here.
Right.
That's simple. And I think he will be. And I think the average per year starts with a 6.
Yes.
And that is...
it's a guarantee,
that's pretty amazing.
Essentially.
Yeah. And it's their fault. And it's their fault because they did it to themselves.
Yeah. But that's fine. I mean, what is the alternative? The alternative was ripping it up 18 months ago, I suppose, a year ago.
Or just getting out in front of it.
Yeah, but then virtually every team's going to have to get out in front. Why hasn't Josh Allen received a new deal?
He did.
I know, but I'm talking about a new one on top of that. I mean, he didn't just get his
1 year left. That's what I'm talking about.
I know, but 1 year left. Sometimes maybe the player says, "Yeah, I'm good. I'll wait."
Yeah.
I mean, once
I
you
don't
get
know.
it
If you
to
have an
under a
elite
year,
player, you know that they're going to get at least close to the even if you like really bargain, they're going to get at least close to the top of the market, right? At least close. So the top of the market is going to be different every single year. So if you have an elite player, do it as soon as you can. Because a year from now, I'm like, man, that's $6 million, per year less.
And I don't know about Ceedee Lamb, but I do know, like, I am presuming
Parsons is the easiest contract to sign of all time.
I'm presuming that with how long that Dak Prescott has been there, I think that he has a good relationship with the Cowboys. They have taken care of him and given him his money. I think he would have been open to even doing that last year. Like, I don't know about Ceedee Lamb, but I'm presuming with Dak Prescott, they could have gotten it done if they wanted to. But then also, I respect the whole, you got to win in the playoffs. But then are you really going to pay him? But then you have to look at the other circumstances. Are you going to pay him $40 million to not be on the roster? What are you going to do at the quarterback position? So they want to act tough. They want to act tough and play this hardball, but it's just going to bite them in the ass at the end.
By the way, the Josh Allen extension, he got a 6-year extension before the 2021 season. I think it started in 2022, though. And I think it takes him through 27 or 28, something like that. But if you're talking about teams getting ahead of, like, it wouldn't surprise me to see, didn't the Chiefs kind of rip up Mahomes's original deal? And they were like,
with his contract. I mean, I remember he signed that 10-year contract, and it was like, look at all this money, but now it looks like a bargain.
Yeah, but then they went and reworked
7 years ago now.
They reworked it. So, that's what happens with these guys, and it just feels like Dak, because twice it's now come down to the wire with him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the time where the player holds.
He played under the franchise tag 1 year. Was that the year he got injured? He played under the franchise tag.
2020 is the year that he tore his leg up.
Broke his ankle. Yeah. Rashad Jennings. Yeah. Remember Rashad Jennings did that, Justin?
Rashad Jennings, Greg Jennings. We have our final
question before we get to these. We gotta hit waiver wires.
Wolf Peach Pies at Wolf Peach Pies on Twitter. Besides Brian Dable, which NFL head coach would you invite over for a holiday dinner?
I don't know if Dable even makes the top 5 anymore. The way he's looking,
because he'll cuss you out.
Still a fun hang though.
Probably. I think the easiest one is obviously Andy Reid.
Yeah, that's the easy one.
If you don't have anybody that looks like Santa, you can bring him over.
It's just he is someone who can get along with every person in the world. Like, he knows he becomes all things to all people.
I think that
you can't have Sean McVay over. His voice is crazy.
He's going to be performing the whole time. Would you want to have Sirianni over just because, like, you can be a little bit scumbag together with him?
Nah, he's going to put his feet in the potatoes or something. It's like he's going to do something crazy.
But he will give you some good stories. I think he'll see nothing stays in the vault with that guy.
I actually think McCarthy would be good
stuff
too.
out of him.
Like the fact that he told like the on his opening press conference, like, yeah, I was kind of bullshitting about that watching all the film thing. That shows me that guy's a good hang.
He'd give you a laugh. You want to know who I would love to bring? Because I have this fantasy. I would like to bring Todd Bowles. I love his voice. I would tell everyone to shut up, and I would want to close my eyes and hear him speak. I just think he has a very soothing voice. I'd make him say grace.
Interesting.
I don't care what he says.
What about Dan Campbell firing you up?
Nah, it's too much.
Too much, huh?
Too much.
Too much?
Too much.
Okay.
They'll put you in like a headlock or some shit.
Yeah, it's too much.
You know what? I might take Kevin O'Connell, because if we're going to have a turkey bowl, if we're going to do it at Thanksgiving time or have some sort of holiday game, you do need a quarterback. He's big. He could cut through the wind. So, and a good dude, really nice guy, fun. Kind of a hidden gem there.
He'd have my back. Kevin
Yeah.
O'Connell would have my back.
Totally. Yeah.
If the family's on my grill. What are you doing with your life? Do you have a girlfriend? Kevin O'Connell's got my back.
You getting a lot of those questions, Penik?
I'm not holding my breath.
I'll travel with you. I'll get your back.
Antonio appears
stuff.
to be a good
Thank
hang
you.
too. I mean, he's got his job because of how much he was able to relate with the players. So
have hung with Antonio Pierce. He was a guest host for Best Damn Super Bowl. I want to say it was down in maybe Tampa. I think it was in Tampa for Super Bowl 43, perhaps. And there's a great picture of all of us smoking stogies together.
Oh.
Good one. I have to try and find it for everybody.
Are you a stogie guy, Chris?
No. Can't do it with the voice, but I have had it a couple of times in Super Bowl trips, and it's.
I was going to say BB5.
Yeah.
Well, you and I, we're going to
Justin's a
cigar
cigar
bar.
addict.
Yeah.
I'm not an addict. Come on now.
All right. Well, this was our first good mailbag. Good questions. Good participation. Thanks for leaving some stuff on YouTube as well. It's awesome. We are getting closer and closer to the regular season. Kicks off next Thursday at the home of the two-time defending Super Bowl champions. We will be breaking down that game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Get to a whole bunch of other stuff. We'll get to some real awards. Real awards season is right around the corner. And then before you know it, we're right there for week one. Game in Brazil on Friday night. Rest of the action on Sunday and Monday, wrapping up with the Jets and the Niners, and we cannot wait. So thank you to everybody who participated, helped us out with our mailbag. For producer Mikey, for Bobby Skinner, for Justin Penik, I am Chris Rose. We will see you next time here on Football Today.